Today we're going to be making magnets out of epoxy. Here's my epoxy. I have my part A and my part B. Here is a piece of plastic I found around my home. They actually had these beads in them, like a little kid's kit. Comes with different like letters and string and everything you need. But anyway, so here's my plastic. I went ahead and I cut out all the bigger rectangles, so I want my magnets to be kind of big. This is what it looks like after you cut it out. I actually ended up with 3 of them, different sizes, so awesome. I have 3 different cups that I use. This plastic cup, this silicone cup, and these I mix my colored epoxy in. This is my spoon, popsicle stick, and my toothpick. Nice, right? Got my gloves. I don't like these very much. There's 2 of them. So I got my gloves. You also need to wear a mask, but I do not have one at that time. So here's my part A. I'm going to go and pour it in first. These are equal parts, so 1 to 1. And there is my part B. I'm going to go ahead and stir this. You don't want to stir it this fast. I just sped this part up so you could, wouldn't be bored. You want to stir it good, getting the bottom, the edges, and your popsicle stick. I'm going to mix it up really, really well, or it's not going to cure right. I'm going to start in the middle and let it work its way outwards. Let it do its kind of its own thing. Sometimes it does need a little extra help, especially if you have a very thin layer, so you can gently lean it to the side. Alright, these look good. This is from an overlay from my work. It was bound for the garbage, so I went ahead and snagged it up. Very pretty. It reminds me of snowflakes, so I'm going to make a snowflake magnet out of it. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Here's one little strip, but it's not going to fit in my magnet. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it into individual pieces so they actually look like snowflakes. Look how pretty that is. Looks just like a snowflake. And as it goes into the resin, it will kind of flare out. I'm going to cut 2 more out. They weren't easy to cut through at all. Here are my 3 little snowflakes. Okay, I'm going to take my toothpick and I'm going to take my little snowflake. I'm going to gently lay it on the top of my resin and kind of slowly push it down with my toothpick. I do not have my gloves on at this time because they are too big and they go so for the sake of the video I'm not wearing my gloves, but please by all means, wear gloves. I'm going to use my popsicle stick to fully submerge this snowflake. Okay, same thing with my second snowflake. I'm going to gently lay it on the surface. Once again, my toothpick, I'm going to slowly push it down, avoiding any air bubbles as much as I can. And then make sure they're fully submerged, so when we add our second layer, they won't be seen. And once again for the third one. Same thing, gently lay it on top. Use your toothpick to push it down. Again, making it fully submerged. We're going to want to leave that until it gets semi-cured so we can do our second layer. See if you can see. You can see how pretty that looks. You can't see it right now, but hopefully you'll be able to see it in the finished product. So here are the little confetti pieces that I'm going to be using. There's different shapes and, not shapes, but there's different sizes and colors. I went with the red, but it was really pretty and shiny. I'm going to use two, probably all we can fit in our little rectangle. I'm going to lay it on the surface like before. And slowly and patiently push it down, avoiding those air bubbles. Our plastic is thin, so we don't want to add too much flame to get rid of air bubbles because it will melt the container. So let's try to avoid as many air bubbles as you can when using these. I did pick a smaller one for the bottom. I wanted that clear space on the edges to kind of play with in our second layer. These dots do bleed sometimes, depending on, I guess, how long you've had them. So you might want to test it before you put them in your resin. Here's my beads, my light blue, my teal, and my navy blue. I learned this technique online. It was mostly for glitter. I decided I was going to try it for my beads, you know, as a little experiment. I've never used this technique before. So I have my navy blue. I'm going to kind of use my paper for a guide, but I'm going to kind of just slide them toward the outer part. I want them thick, but you want to try to have them running away. You don't want them running away from you in the resin, so eventually you're going to have to pack them down. This technique actually, for me, worked better with glitter. The beads did like roll around more and you have less control over them. And this is my light blue. I decided just to use my own instincts on this one. I'm going to slide them just up against the very end of the container. You want a good amount, but keep in mind the more you put in there, they're going to try to run away. So if you pack them down into the resin, you can keep them controlled. So you just pack them in there a little bit. It can also help you create a more straighter line. Just like that. Here is my teal. I'm going to put it in the middle. This is where my clumsiness comes in. Let's see how straight of a line I can get here. I don't want my middle line too big because I want that clear to play with in our second layer again. I did kind of clump them in places, but no worries, you can always fix them. In the middle is the hardest because they want to try and run away in the resin. So you're going to have to try to put them back in place and kind of pack them. Eventually they will stay where you put them. That's probably going to have to be good enough. I keep causing more damage, I think, than I am helping. So I think I pretty much got them where they need to be. Again, they don't have to be perfect, and you can always fix them before your layer dries. I'm going to put another layer of resin over this because some of my beads are not all the way submerged. So I'm going to put another, a little bit of resin over the top of it. These have been sitting for a while. They have reached this like gel-like state. They are semi-cured. Then we can feel free to put our glitters on there and whatever else we want to put on top. I have this fine silver glitter. I'm going to put on my winter piece with my snowflakes. I want to start with a fine glitter and maybe put some chunky glitter behind it to make it really pop. I apologize, it takes me forever with these spoons to get the glitter in there because I don't want it to clump in one spot. So I kind of have trouble getting it off the spoon without dumping it in a place. Since it's on the second layer, you don't have to worry about your glitter spreading. It's going to stay exactly where you put it, which is why I do not want to clump it in one spot. Here's my chunky silver glitter. I don't want too much of this behind my fine glitter. I just want just enough to really pull your attention from the back of the magnet. Okay. Next we have these little confetti pieces I had in the bottom. I'm going to put these in the clear area. kind of clumped them in there on accident, but no worries, we can fix it. Sprinkle them in there. Don't worry about the pieces of confetti you get behind the bigger red pieces because you're not going to see those. I'm going to take my toothpick and kind of move them around where I want them. I kind of got them a little close together than I wanted to, so I'm going to go ahead and go through and fix those. I did push some into the gel a little bit, which I was hoping it would create this kind of 3D effect. Okay, here's my midnight blue. We're going to be adding it to our bead magnet. Well, here I go again with my spoon. And of course, right off the bat, I go ahead and just throw a big peach clump in that spot. It's okay, we can fix that later. I want to add a couple more colors, so hopefully they'll blend together nice and even. Okay, we got our aqua color. I'm going to go ahead and put this on top of the navy blue. I like these tubes so I can not clump it as much as when I use a spoon. Seems to come out nice and easy. This is our white. I'm hoping it will break up the colors so they're not all just clumped together. Hoping it will bring out the irritation from the background. So I'm going to heat this up, but you don't want to heat it up too much because our plastic is really thin and we don't want to melt the mold and disfigure our epoxy pieces. This is what it looks like when it's completely cured. We're going to go ahead and put this is our navy blue acrylic paint. We're going to go ahead and put it on top. And for my snowflake piece, I'm going to put this light metallic blue. For our confetti piece, I'm going to use this red acrylic paint. I'm going to go ahead and mix my epoxy resin. here I'm grabbing my 3 cups for my 3 different colors that I'm going to be using. I'm going to put about an equal amount in each one. I am going to leave a little bit of clear resin in case I have to go over any of my pieces for any reason. Okay, so got my 3 cups. Let's go and put our 3 colors in there. Okay, I have my midnight blue for the beaded magnet piece. I'm only going to put a tiny bit in here, and a tiny bit goes a long way. Some people like to use their mica powders or their alcohol inks, but I think the acrylic paint looks alright. Again, I'm only putting a tiny bit on my stick. Too much of it and you will get this like thick, gross, mostly paint more than resin mixture, and it's not going to cure right. It's going to be kind of tacky still. So you want to make sure and not put too much paint inside of your resin. And you do want to stir this in really good, and you're going to get this, again, you're going to get this weird mixture. It's not going to be an even color. Here's our red. Again, just a tiny bit. Once again, you're going to mix your paint into your epoxy, nice and even. I'm going to stir it for a little bit, make sure it's all blended in. I did put acrylic paint in this resin, but just because I did does not mean it's not going to be translucent. Okay, here's my blue, my metallic blue. As you can see, these colors have turned out pretty translucent. They're not going to fully cover the back. Mix my blue into my resin. This color here is actually a very natural, like translucent color by itself. I used it for my knobs in my kitchen, and it actually took me like 3 coats to actually make a solid color. So this one, I figured it was perfect. I also use this color a lot in some of the ocean scenes that I've done, coasters and stuff. It's a really pretty color. Here's my red glitter I'm going to be using for my confetti piece. I'm going to put that down first before I do my color so it sticks to that resin. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pour the resin on top of the glitter. Hopefully it will hold it against the resin. Again, we're going to pour down the middle and let it do its own thing. Let it flow toward the outside. Again, if it needs help, don't be afraid to slightly tilt it so that it reaches the outside of the mold. Okay, these are completely cured. These are completely done, as you can see. Welcome back. Here are my cured magnet pieces. Here's my confetti piece. And my beaded piece. And my snowflake piece. You do have these little imperfections to where the thin plastic bent. It also has this like texture on the top, which I thought was pretty cool, but on some pieces it may not be very cool. You can see on this one, it kind of made a big one. Big little indentation. I did have to cut it out of the plastic, but you cannot reuse that mold again now. So if you're going to use one of these, you might want to go through and try and knock some of these little ripples out. Go through with your finger and kind of flatten them out. They also have this little divot in there, which you're going to have to sand off of your piece, so I'm going to watch out for that. So here's my first piece. This is what it should look like after it's done. Here's my magnets. They came in these little squares, which you can break down into whatever size you would like. My UV resin. Can't find my UV lamp. Yeah, it fell on the floor. This is like $5 on Amazon. See my little UV lamp? It works. Here's my sandpaper. It doesn't matter what sandpaper. We're just going to use it to scratch up the surface a little bit. My nail glue, I couldn't find super glue, so I'm using nail glue. And these are the magnets. They actually have adhesive on the back, so that's why I chose to kind of scratch up the surface. I was hoping they would stick better. So here's our first piece. I'm going to fit the magnet on there so I can get an idea of where I need to scratch, so I don't have to scratch the whole surface. Okay, I'm going to scratch this little area, just enough so that maybe the adhesive will bond better. Okay, we're done with that. Go ahead and take your paper off, which is a little bit hard, even with nails. Make sure you put it where you scratched and make sure you push down hard to get that bond. Okay, once you're done with that, I wanted to add my super glue, or my nail glue in this case. I'm going to make sure and kind of seal the edges to make sure, you know, it doesn't pop off until you're ready to put your resin on. Now I'm going to take my UV resin. I'm going to try not to get it on my magnet and off the side. So I'm going to start in the middle and kind of work my way around and wait for it to kind of flow into the correct direction. We want it kind of domed. We don't want that sharp edge, so try to get your edges really good. I'm using my nozzle to break up some of these bubbles by my magnet. I'm just going to use this toothpick just in case. I see a couple of places that I wanted to kind of fix. I'm going to go ahead and cure these after while I'm showing you the other pieces. I'm going to be curing this piece. So you just stick it under your UV lamp, which is actually not safe to look at, but just as an example. I put this under 4 times, a minute each time, and I am touching it, and it feels hard. It feels cured, so we're good. And that's what it looks like when it's all cured. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the fridge so that you can see that it sticks. It works really good, actually. I tested on a few of my papers I had on my fridge, and it held them all up pretty good, even the thicker cardboard ones. Nice, pretty, nice finish. Not bad. Okay, here's our next pieces. I'm going to speed this up because I still wanted you to see the process, but I didn't want it to be too long. So go ahead and sped this part up. I cannot seem to get this tape off. Put your magnet on, your glue, and your epoxy. And last, we have our snowflake piece. Repeating the process. Here is our finished, fully cured snowflake piece. Here's the confetti piece, fully cured. Nice and shiny. And again, here is my blue piece. If you like this video, please join us next time where I'm going to be making a Fortnite coaster for my son with this V-Buck. I'm going to be putting it into this coaster. So thank you for watching. If you like my video, please like and please subscribe. Thank you everybody. Have fun with your epoxy.